like this. And this is a lot of yardage, right?
Right.
So you want to open this up along from selvage edge to selvage edge. What you want to do is you want to fold this. Well, you want to iron it because these creases are not good. You want to fold it, and you want to put your pattern piece down, cut one out, move it down, cut one out,
Okay.
move it down, cut one out.
So now you're getting 2 for 1.
Well, this is actually done on the fold, so it's not,
Oh, okay.
and see, like, this is too small of a scrap, but what I've been doing is getting creative with my
Oh,
scraps.
There you go.
And you want to fold them right sides touching because it saves you a step of having to flip it back the other way. So we want to pin, pin, pin. However many pins you feel comfortable doing. I do about between 5 and 6.
Okay.
Just because I know that if I get a nice uniform cut, I'm better off than if I have to like pick up the fabric and I'm worried about the pattern lifting away from the fabric.
Okay.
Okay, so that goes in the trash, and then now I've got one flannel piece. I need one cotton piece to go with it. What I've been doing, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. This is not what I've been doing, but what I've been doing is I will cut out a bunch of flannel pieces, and then I'll cut out a bunch of cotton pieces so that
Okay.
I have a stack.
Yeah.
Like stockpiled. Again, place on the fold
Okay.
and pin, and you can see how beat up my pattern piece has gotten.
Yeah.
And that's fine because it's paper, it's easier to pin paper, and then I can just lay my cardstock piece on a new piece of paper, make another paper template, and keep going with that one until that one's obliterated too.
That's awesome. Okay.
So I've been making sure to hand out a piece of cardstock with every pattern I give out.
Thank you. That's smart.
Okay, then I want to cut this one out. Okay, now we head over to the sewing machine. Okay, once I have a stockpile of pieces, what I'll do is I will start matching. Okay, I want a piece of cotton and a piece of flannel together, and then I want another piece of cotton and another piece of flannel, and then I
Okay.
just start stacking them, alternating. And notice how I'm like alternating their position so they're easier to peel off each other.
You are manufacturing them.
Okay, now the next thing, once I have a pair, I come to the sewing machine.
Okay.
This is not a true 1/4 of an inch.
Okay.
It's the raw edge of my fabric to the edge of the presser foot.
Okay.
Okay? Forward, reverse, forward, and then I want to sew down to the fold and then reverse again. Okay? Now, if I get like a snaggle like that, I just trim that off when I go to the next step. But then I flip it so that way the flat edge is easier to line up. You'll notice I went off a little bit. That's okay. You know, because going backwards on a curve is sometimes really tricky.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, once I have a stockpile of pieces like this, I get through my pile. And then I grab each pair and I start clipping threads. I want to set my my threads to the side because I don't want them getting on the finished product. I try to keep everything as clean, as quote unquote clean as I
Yeah.
can. So what I do is I'll cut a bunch of thread. When I have like a good pile of thread trash, I keep a little trash can next to my workstation.
Okay.
So I can just sweep it off the table, keep my area as orderly as possible. But I don't want all these threads gumming up the work, so I trim them down. Once I get, with each pair, what I do is I cut their threads. Then what I do is I do notches along the curve. It's just cutting up to the seam
Okay.
because you have to relieve the tension of the curve.
Okay.
Now, some people will cut triangles. Those take too long. If you have pinking shears, use those.
Okay.
But you can use pinking shears, but the pinking shears are our pinking shears are kind of gummy because they're not great quality. So they kind of stick. They don't open very
Okay,
well.
right.
But other people have good pinking shears by like Ginger or Fiskars
Right,
or, you
they
know.
just-
I have like cheapy, like $10
Makes it
ones.
harder to do it that way. if you-
Yeah, so that's why we do notches this way, Emily. So then what you want to do is, once I have my threads cut and I have all my notches, again, another pile of these guys.
Okay.
So I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to work on this one.
Okay.
Or no, I need to show you this. I'm sorry. Okay, I open up one right side out.
Okay.
Okay? you need to make sure you're matching the correct side to the correct side. You'll notice there's a point and a curve
Right.
and a point, but it's flat.
Okay.
So if you get these mixed up and you turn them upside
Right,
down,
yeah.
you're going to be seam ripping.
Okay.
So what you do is you want to nest your seams, okay? You
Okay.
want to nest your seams, and then you want to push your fabric one to each side
Okay.
because you don't want too much bulk. You want these to lay flat, but because they've been notched, they're going to be
Yeah.
impossible to open flat.
Right.
So don't even waste your time.
Okay.
And just push them to either side. What I do is I pin in the center seam, and then I do one pin on either side of the seam. Then I flip it. I nest these seams. And it's easy to nest the seams because you can feel the bulk of the seam is pretty easy to feel.
Okay.
Pin to the center, go to the side. Now this is usually where I leave my opening. Now, if you have trouble visualizing and things like that, what I have been doing is I put a yellow pin. I don't put yellow pins anywhere else. I only put a yellow pin where I need to leave an opening because I'm going so fast.
Right.
I don't want my brain
Yeah.
to miss that because then that's wasted time
Gotcha.
trying to
Yeah.
trying to find where the opening is. Next, I have my t-shirt.
Okay.
Now these are 1-inch strips that have been cut to 6 1/4 inches. Now before I sew these in, I have to pull them. Okay, it gets rid of some of the shed
Okay.
and it stretches them out because you don't want this to be flat and then when they put them in, it stretches oddly. So pull it.
Okay.
Okay, Then what you want to do, and you can see my assembly line here. What I've been doing is I've been doing my 3 pins, stretching my fabric and pairing them up. Then once I have all of my stuff paired up, that's when I go to the machine and I
go
just keep
for it.
going,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
Again,
That's a good process.
it's,
yeah.
I'm trying to be as assembly line as possible.
You're able to knock out a heck of a lot more that way.
I'm trying so hard.
Jeez.
I'm doing dead cutting and notching.
Yeah, because that's busy work that takes time.
Yeah.
That takes time away from cutting fabric, you know, sewing. So she's being a big helper right now.
That's awesome.
I should get paid for this.
What?
Y'all should get paid for this.
Honey, it's okay. It's not about getting paid. It's about helping the community, okay?
My dad used
this
to
is-
make me pick up trash around church all the time. I had to do all this stuff, and now, you know, it pays off that you know how to give back. You understand that. So
Okay,
Okay.
so the t-shirt stretches quite a bit, and you'll notice that my 6 1/4 actually became like, I think, over 7. So you want to put your excess to the outside so it shortens it up just a little bit, and there's a little more security.
And this is actually inside out, right?
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah, we've got
Okay.
right sides touching.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay. Then I'm going to start at that yellow pin, and again, I'm keeping the raw edge of the fabric to the edge of the presser foot. If you can
Okay.
see that.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go forward, reverse, forward, stop about 1/4 of an inch away, remove my pin. I'm not, I'm not doing reverse stitching over the earpieces because I'm going to be putting a top stitch on later. That's going to help hold those earpieces in place. Now, this part had a curve, this part is nice and flat. You could hear my machine hiccup. And then I see that yellow pin, so I want to make sure that I reverse and leave that spot open.
Okay.
Okay, I could hear a hiccup, and so there's my hiccup. Again, when I have a pile of these, Emily's working on that pile over there. But what we do is we cut our threads. And then I cut the corners. Now this gets fiddly because I don't want to cut the elastic. I don't want to cut the t-shirt. So
Okay.
I do like an angled swoop,
Gotcha.
but that means that when I come over here, if I cut from this angle, I might cut the elastic or the t-shirt. So I have to flip it.
Okay.
So I look over here, I'm already flipped to this side. So then I have to flip it again. So if you have a non-sewer at home, if you have a spouse or significant other or someone who is bored,
They can
this
cut and-
that can cut, but make sure that they have steady hands because you do not want them cutting your seams, you don't want them
Right.
cutting the elastic. And then I just notch the entire curved side of the mask. So
Okay.
the top side, the easy way to know is the flat side will have your opening. So if you get confused, okay, which side am I notching? You want the opposite side from the opening. Just cutting notches to relieve the tension of the curve.
Okay.
Then we want to turn it right side out. And this is where we're going to use like a chopstick or
Okay,
some kind of, you don't want to use scissors. You don't want to use anything sharp. A dull pencil will do. A pen, if it's not like a fine point pen. You just want something slightly rounded. I use my knitting needle.
Oh, that's a pretty one.
But then I'm just going to push it out.
Gotcha.
Okay, the next step would require the iron. However, for the tutorial, what I've been doing is I've just been finger pressing to save time. So if you want me to show you how to iron them properly, I will. Is that what you want?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so again, when I have a pile of these, and I mean like the corners have even been poked out,
Okay.
I have had like a pile of these just sitting here waiting for me to iron.
And then you just boom, boom, boom.
Steam on, it's cotton, it's flannel. This is your biggest culprit right here. You want to open this up first and really pluck that. You want that seam
Okay.
really on the edge because you're gonna lose mask coverage. This is supposed to be one size fits most,
Okay.
and it won't be if the fabric isn't really pulled.
Well, that'd be so
See-
fast.
Your opening, you want to make sure that the edges are even. It'll want to naturally fold. Then I go to the corner of my ironing board. It's more effective than the broad side.
Okay.
Double checking my edges because I really don't want to goof this. Ironing at this point, it's really helpful because then you can just take a pile of these over to the sewing machine and like finish the last step. Okay, at this point I usually remove the compartment on my sewing machine just so that, because this area gets in the way. And I am not sewing with the edge of my presser foot anymore. I'm actually sewing with the inside edge of the presser foot. So I'm lining up the edge of my fabric with the inside edge of the foot. Forward, reverse. Forward, reverse at the end.
That looks really pretty.
And then you just want to,
Snip, snip.
yeah, you don't even bother cutting these threads until you've got a pile sewn again.
Okay, right.
It's all about creating piles
Okay.
and saving.
Yeah. You can go a lot
Because
faster.
If you try to tackle each one at a time, it's just going to eat